3 minutes after, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thanks to all of you for joining me tonight. We're going to talk about something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. And can you hear me now? Thanks for joining me for our webinar tonight. We're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is EcoGuard. It's one of the projects I've been working on since I joined Ecosense over a year ago. And we're going to focus on long-term radon monitoring and the fact that it can also serve as a post-mitigation active alert system. So I'm going to start by getting the slides to move here if I can. So you may or may not be familiar with the ANSI ARST standards. You're looking at the cover of the soil gas mitigation standards, and there's a section there that talks about the definition of operation, maintenance, and monitoring plans. And it describes it as a document that includes information on the operation and maintenance of installed systems, and more importantly, in my opinion, guidance for monitoring the effectiveness of the system in the future. Now, as you know, if you've been in this business for a while, the sad fact is very few radon systems get monitored, at least to determine whether the radon concentrations are being managed. That being said, the standard was changed a few years ago where they added an active notification monitor section. And this one says all mitigation systems that incorporate a fan shall also include a monitoring mechanism that actively alerts occupants and other responsible individuals in the event of fan or other mechanical failure. And then it describes that this alert should either be an audible notification or a visual light notification or notification by telemetric means, which they're referring to a push notification or an email. So most of the folks that are installing these active alerts are installing pressure sensor alerts because up until recently, there was really no other way to do this affordably. You can see 3 different manufacturers that have devices out. There may be a couple of others, but these were the 3 that I readily found on the internet. And some things about them I've heard even before I left ARST NRPP are irritating to some of the mitigators. First of all, the audible alarms seem to irritate the homeowners. And if you've ever had a smoke alarm go off when you're trying to cook dinner and you can't get it to stop, what do? We take the battery out and then we forget to put it back in. I've heard that sometimes dust gets sucked up inside the little tube that goes inside the pipe, that can trigger the alarm even though the fan is still running. And then the sad fact there is that an active fan doesn't necessarily mean that it's controlling the radon concentrations in the building. So the question that has been raised in the past is, well, why aren't we actually monitoring the radon levels regularly throughout the life of the mitigation system? And up until now, it's just been too expensive to do that with a continuous monitor, to tie up a monitor that could cost $1,500, $3,000, $800, whichever one you pick, to stay at one location for month after month and so forth. Just doesn't make any economic sense. So what's the answer? Well, Ecosense has come up with a solution that I'm proud to share with you, and that is the EcoGuard. Now, it's affordable, and I say that it works better than a fan pressure alert. And I'm going to show you why that's the case as I go through the slides. You see a picture here of one that's attached to the pipe. Whether it should be attached to the mitigation pipe depends on where that pipe is located, obviously. This one, the installer put it on with some zip ties, but you can actually install it with a mount. There's other ways you can place it, and if it needs to be on a wall, then that's doable as well. We're actually working with PDS to come up with an affordable PVC mount that could be used either on the pipe or on a wall. And so the question that comes up sometimes is, what's so special about EcoGuard? Well, if you start looking at devices that have been used for monitoring consumers, homes, then we've got two different types. We've got the electronic integrating devices, and then we have a continuous monitor. The distinction between the two really has to do with the counting efficiency of the sensor and whether it can report individual 1 hour readings or a 24-hour average concentration. So you can see on the left, the EIDs have a very low detector efficiency of less than a count per hour per picocurie per liter in most cases. And because of that, they can't collect enough data in a 1 hour period to report a number with any certainty. So what they do is whatever data they do collect during that hour, they add to the data collected for the previous 23 hours, and then they report the 24-hour average, and they update that 24-hour average hourly. That's in contrast to a CRM. In this case, we're talking about EcoGuard, which provides individual 1 hour readings because the sensor has an efficiency of 30 counts per hour per picocuries per liter. So we get very reliable 1 hour readings. So that's the biggest distinction between the two as far as the specifications. I'll show you some slides here in a minute that you can see how they compare in performance. But the EIDs, the manufacturers will tell you that they really need to be out for 7 days before they can produce a somewhat reliable reading, and even recommend 30 days of exposure before they would say the reading is actionable. We are confident that our numbers are actionable within 48 hours. So let me go back to this slide for just a second. I didn't clarify that our device has gone through the NRPP device evaluation process and has a device code. You can see it up there at the top. You can find it on the NRPP device code section of their website. So it has been evaluated for performance. And on this slide, you can see an example of how this would work as an active alert. This is a house in Smyrna, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. It's actually one of my daughter's houses. And we installed an EcoGuard unit back at the end of August. And you can see that 4-hour experiment to demonstrate how this would work. Around the 4th of September, we shut the mitigation fan off. And the weather was mild in the Atlanta area in early September. So her windows weren't necessarily closed during these next few days. But you can see that while the system was off, the fan wasn't running, that the radon concentrations immediately rose. And while they do fluctuate up and down, you see this 48-hour average, 48-hour period where the average was 4.2 picocuries per liter. So at that point, we turned the fan back on, and you can see how quickly the monitor responded. And the radon concentrations come back down, and you can see that they're maintained to less than 2 picocuries per liter until we repeated the experiment again. We shut the fan off, and as before, the radon concentrations spiked up, and there was another 48-hour average of 5.2. We turned the fan back on, and likewise, the concentrations you can see fell quickly. This is a house in Knoxville, Tennessee that one of our partners mitigated and installed an EcoGuard unit on, and you can see that the radon concentrations were kept controlled very well through these first days. And then we shut off the system on the 10th of September, and then you can see again the weather was mild, but so the close house conditions may or may not have been maintained very well during part of that period. But you can see that it then rose up to 6.5, say, peak curies per liter, and then as soon as we turned the fan back on, the concentrations came back down. This is the same house where the graph is showing that the mitigation system was installed. The EcoGuard unit was installed at the same time. You can see the radon concentrations fell rapidly after the installation and the fan being activated. This was in February, and the radon concentrations averaged 1.7 picocuries per liter until the 13th of September, when you can see it starting to creep up a little bit there. That's when I asked him to shut off the fan for our experiment, where I was wanting to demonstrate how well this would work as an active alert. This particular mitigator likes to install this as part of his proposal and his service agreement, because he feels like it's a quality control verification and gives his clients peace of mind. You know, one of the things I keep hearing from mitigators from all across the country is the market's changed a little bit, at least in many places, where the seller isn't necessarily paying for the mitigation system. So when a test gets performed by a home purchaser, then the seller may often tell them, well, we're not going to pay for any improvements, including mitigation. So the mitigator that gets called is dealing directly with the buyer, and they are concerned about quality and peace of mind. And more mitigators are finding opportunities to work directly with the client who's going to be living in the home, instead of a seller who's moving off somewhere else and doesn't really care. So this has become an attractive proposition for a lot of homeowners. Now, I said I'd make a comparison between a CRM and an EID. This is another house. It belongs to another one of my daughters, who also has a mitigation system in her house. And it's again, a suburb of the Atlanta area. And you can see that there are two different graph lines. The orange is an EcoGuard unit, and the blue is a wave unit, which is an EID. And you can see that because of the hourly readings that you can get with the EcoGuard, you're seeing the concentration as it moves up and down, whereas the wave, because it's giving 24-hour averages, is smoothing out those peaks and valleys. And it really starts to show here when we shut off the fan for this demonstration. The mitigation fan was shut off. You can see that the EcoGuard tracked the concentration as it rose. It got up as high as 13 picocuries per liter, and then it fell down a little bit and up again and down again. But over that time period, the average was above 4 picocuries per liter. And then we turned the fan back on again, and you can see how quickly the EcoGuard tracked it as the levels came down, but there was quite a bit of time lagged before the wave unit was able to see that. So I'm not saying that an EID couldn't work as a notification, but it certainly isn't going to be as responsive as a true CRM like the EcoGuard. So EcoGuard was first created about a year and a half ago, before we went through the device evaluation and made some improvements. And we were sort of gathering some information from clients and getting feedback and seeing the kinds of things that we would need to do to make it more advantageous to, say, a mitigator for this purpose. But the original version certainly had a dashboard. The way this works is the mitigator is going to set up the device, and the device is owned by the mitigator or the professional. All the data from the units out in the field is transmitted back to through the cloud and to the dashboard, so you can see all of the homes that you're monitoring. There is an app that can be shared with the client or not. That's up to the mitigator. And we did have alert notifications with the original version, but we got feedback on those. And one of the things that people didn't like is it was based on an audible alarm, and it wasn't based on an average over time. So as we continued to make improvements, we took that into consideration. The other thing that we worked on, even as we were going through the device evaluation, was the ability for the device to be put back onto Wi-Fi without the mitigator having to go to the house to do that. We realized right away, well, that was a problem we had to solve. So the way this works is every professional gets a unique QR code, and you can actually put that on the system. If you need connection information or information on the system, then the client can scan that QR code and send a message to the mitigator that their unit is offline. Now, the dashboard will show that also. So if you're looking at your dashboard, then you can see that the unit at this property is no longer connected. But this way, you can actually send the homeowner a link to an applet that will let them reconnect the device to the Wi-Fi without actually getting into your account. So they're not going to get into your dashboard and see all the data you have for all your clients or even their own account, but they will be able to put it back online. So this would be the case if they changed addresses, or they changed, Wi-Fi addresses, or if they changed, carriers, that sort of thing. So that's the improvement that we made late last year. And then as we continue to work on more improvements, this is what I'm really excited to share. The regular EcoCube app has always showed the current radon concentration for the hour up at the top. So if you look on the left image, you can see that 5.3. That is the average for the hour. And we realized, well, that isn't going to work in this situation. So the app for EcoGuard is different. The top is going to show either the 48-hour average or the 24-hour average. You get to decide which one you want it to display when you set up the device. So you can share the app with your client and feel more comfortable that they're not going to be staring at the 1 hour reading when what really matters as to the performance is, what's the concentration over time. So if you set it up for the 48-hour average display, then that's what's going to be up. You can still look at the bottom of the app and click on the day, week, month, and year and see the trend charts and the ups and downs. But the feedback that we were getting from our customers was this would make it a lot more palatable to share with their clients and not be concerned about nuisance calls when there was really no need for the client to be concerned. The other thing we looked at, as I mentioned, was the alarm. The audible alarms being irritating, we decided to do away with that function And as you go in to set up the device, you can set the action level that you would like the alarm to be triggered on, and the time period. So you can choose either a 24-hour average or a 48-hour average. So it's your choice. If you choose the 48-hour average, if the concentration for the last 48 hours is at or above the action level, then a push notification will be sent that this needs to be looked at. Something is going on. The system isn't working. The advantage to this over a pressure sensor alert obviously is, as I already showed you in those graphs, you can tell that the fan was shut off if that was the case, or if it failed to run for some reason. But it would also let you know if the system was not performing for some reason, even when the fan was operational. So in my mind, the absolute best way to monitor the performance of a mitigation system is to actually be looking at the pollutant you're trying to get rid of. So we made that improvement as well. And then finally, we had to look at the data entry to make sure we had all of the metadata necessary for a complete report. So when you set it up, you will mark whether the home has a mitigation system or not. Obviously, if you're doing this post-mitigation, then that's going to be checked, installed. The type of building, the floor that the monitor is being set on, the room type and the substructure type. So data can be entered into the system and where it will show up on reports. So look at it this way. You go out and put a mitigation system in and you activate the fan. What if you could go ahead and install EcoGuard at that point? That's what our clients are doing. So they go ahead and install it at that time and set it up. And then after, say, the 24 hours that the fan should be running before you do your post-mitigation clearance test, you can request a report. And if you click the request report button on your dashboard, then we're going to prepare a full report for you to provide to your client as your initial clearance test report. So Ecosense is also approved as a laboratory for this device. So we're going to analyze the data stream, make sure that it's valid data, and then we're going to generate a complete minimum 48-hour report with the delay that's needed. Now, I had a question the last time I gave a webinar on this. Well, what if you want to wait longer than 24 hours? Well, you can put that in your request, and we can do that as well. So we're operating as the lab, and we will prepare that report and then post it for you where you can provide it to your client. And then the unit stays there for what the main purpose is to continue to monitor after the fact. What we do then is every 30 days, they're ready on the first day of every month. We have it programmed where it will summarize and prepare a summary report for the previous month's period. And again, we analyze the data stream and then we post that report, and you can send that to your client on a monthly basis. So if they have the app, if you decided to share that with them, they can kind of see what's going on in real time, but then they'll have a report that you can forward to them on the summary for every 30-day period. And then it's an approved device, and the question comes up, well, what about calibration? So I'm going to tell you my interpretation of the standard. In this context, we're not measuring the radon concentration to determine whether the building needs to be mitigated. That was already done because you're putting this in as a post-mitigation monitoring service. So the standard, the mitigation standard says in section 10.2.1 that the maintenance and monitoring plan should be very clear that a test is recommended at least every 2 years to ensure that the system remains effective. So my interpretation of that is if you've got the short-term post-mitigation clearance test and then you continue to monitor, then the obligation to the standard is that every 2 years there's a test performed. Now, we all know that that doesn't happen the way things operate in most instances now. But here's a way where you can provide a service where at that 2-year period, you can either go back out and do a cross-check with a unit that's been calibrated within the last 12 months. You can replace it with a new EcoGuard device that is freshly calibrated, or we are going to be in a few months actually recalibrating devices ourselves. So we will have the ability here in the US to recalibrate devices. So you can return them, we'll recalibrate them, and you can use a replacement for that time. So we'll start rotating stock for this purpose to try to keep costs down for everybody who's part of the program. So the question everybody wants to know is, how much does this cost? So we're actually selling these devices. If you get an order 1 through 19, then they're $129 each, and then you pay a $3.99 per month data service charge. The key to that data service charge is it's only for activated units. So let's say you bought 20 units, and by the way, if you buy 20 units, we'll cut that price. If you buy 50 units, we'll cut it even more. But if you bought these units in bulk and you have them on your truck and you're installing them as you put in mitigation systems, you're not getting charged the service fee on a unit that's not activated. You're not going to get charged that until they're installed and they're actively monitoring the radon concentrations at that location. That's pretty much what I wanted to share with you. So what I'm going to do now is do the best I can to look at the questions and answer any questions. If you would like to speak, if you'll raise your hand, I can also call on you. I see a question from Raymond who's asking the cost per month. And I think I said that. I see it, never mind. Yeah, you can have as many devices as you want. We have a client who already has well over 100. I think he has about 130 some odd devices out at different homes that he's monitoring. And he's just, made that part of his package. I think the way he works that is he includes the unit price into his proposal for the monitoring and service agreement, and I believe he's made an agreement to go out every 2 years and inspect the system and either replace the device or do a cross check, and he charges per year instead of per month. Must be installed indoors. Yes, Don. It will need to be installed indoors. So if you're coming out a rim joist and putting the fan outside, then you'll either need to mount it in a suitable location. Again, if you're interested in some mounting options, we're developing those now, but we have some things that people are using that I can recommend to you if you shoot me an email, and they're working pretty well and are inexpensive. The whole idea here is we want to make this kind of a part of that installation where there's confidence that the system is being monitored. Let's see. Further explain the reason for the differences in the blue and the orange. Okay, let me see if I can go back to that. Let me go back to that slide. Okay. So the orange is the EcoGuard unit, and it's because of its detector efficiency being so good, we're reporting individual hourly readings. So all of these points through here are the reading for the hour. So you can see what the reading is for this hour and so forth. So it's showing real time what the radon concentrations are. Whereas the blue is showing the average concentration for the last 24 hours. So at every point, it's averaging in what the concentration was for the previous 23 hours. So it's not going to be able to react and respond as quickly because of that averaging. So as you see here, if you can follow my cursor, I hope you can. After the fan was shut off for the first time, you can see because the orange being the EcoGuard unit is reporting individual hourly readings. You can see it track as the radon rapidly rises as a result of the fan being shut down. But the blue line, which is the EID, is showing the 24-hour average. So every data point is averaging the previous 23. So it's not going to show the response. It's going to be very slow before it actually catches up. Hopefully that answered your question. Power or battery? Okay, these do run on power. One of the advantages to that for this purpose is if they're on battery, then you have to have a way to make sure they continue to operate. This way, if they shut down, because of power, then you'll be able to see it from the dashboard as well. So they obviously, if there's a temporary power outage, they'll shut down. But as soon as power comes back on, they start again. Another question? Okay. All right. Well, so what I'd like to invite you to do, I have everybody's email address because you registered. I'll be glad to send out some more information on this and perhaps an incentive for you to try it. Again, if you're looking to get at least 20, we'll give you a much better price on a bulk purchase. I really think this is an opportunity for mitigators to be able to offer a peace of mind service to their clients. Keep an eye on an upcoming webinar we'll have on how this approach could also work for home inspectors who are not doing mitigation. It's an opportunity to, with a little different business model, to offer clients who their initial test falls between that 2 and 4 picocurie per liter range. You did a good 48-hour test, for example, but again, you're limited by the time constraints of, say, a real estate transaction. So we all know how radon can fluctuate and be different from season to season. And so this is an opportunity for those people who are in that category where the EPA says, well, you should consider mitigation, even though the average is less than 4, for them to take a longer look at it and you to be there to provide guidance and interpretation of the data and so forth. And I can share with you the people that just have our regular EcoCube that buy it off Amazon are call in or hit our customer support line a lot, trying to understand, and we do everything we can to make sure that they understand the data they're looking at on their app. But there's nothing like having a professional like one of you to provide extra peace of mind and a certified report. Okay, I thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.